to Cheers PA Beer Talk. I'm your host, as always, Maalik Stark, and today we have a really cool guest. Before we get started with our guest today, I'd like to give a special thanks to the PLCB for making this show possible, and be sure to look out for new episodes every other Thursday, and follow us on Cheers_PA on Facebook and Instagram. And without further ado, Brian Mills.
Hi, Maalik. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on, man. How are you this afternoon, early afternoon?
It's so far so good. A little bit busy day. We're looking forward to the weekend.
All right, fair enough. I think everybody is.
Yeah,
It's a lot to cram in a 4-day work week.
yeah.
You just want to talk about Inspiration Brewing and you, man. Like, how'd you get started in brewing?
So like many brewers, I started off as a home brewer. I was doing that for about 12, maybe 13 years now. There was a brief stint in there where I spent a couple years at Mount Gretna Brewing that unfortunately is no longer around. After that is kind of where I really decided that I wanted to look for an opportunity to have my own place. I had a couple years in the commercial world and decided that, if I was going to do this again, it was going to be for me and not for someone else.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like a lot of like owners of breweries have the same like idea as far as like, I've been doing this so long, like I want to do it for myself now.
Yeah,
like,
I'm done with my corporate job.
Okay, fair. Like, did you, whenever you had the idea of opening up your own, was that pretty immediate, or was that something along like?
It kind of festered for a while, and I'd been in like casually looking into things for a couple years now, with the kind of the state of the brewing world and breweries. About a year or so ago, I switched focus from maybe finding a place to create that's my own to potentially looking to take over a place where somebody's looking to get out of the business. It just seemed like a better option in the current economic landscape of things.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have to go out and search for everything that you need to make it your own, I mean, changing things that already exist seems like the easier route to go.
Yeah, and that's where I got fortunate. So Inspiration Brewing is going to be located in Ephrata, Pennsylvania, Lancaster County, in the original tap room of Poor Man's Brewing. So they recently bought St. Boniface and moved all of their production there. So I am taking over their original location with all of the brewing equipment that went along with it. So it was a really nice opportunity that came along, and I've known those guys for a while now. And it just, the right thing came along at the right time.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, and with taking over like their brewing equipment and stuff like that, like, is that going to be, like you said, that you've done this for a long time, like as far as learning like their equipment, because not all of it's the same, of course.
Sure. Like I'll have to take some time to figure out the nuances of it. At Gretna, we had a 7-barrel system. This is a 10-barrel system. So, I mean, they're close in size, but there will be some differences between the two. Really concentrating on getting to know that system the first several months of being open.
Okay. And with Inspiration Brewing, like that name, does that mean anything, like as far as like what you want to put out to like the public?
Yeah, I mean, it took me a while to settle on a name of what I might want to call a place. And, along that journey of trying to come up with a name, like all of these different things were, that I thought of were inspirations of some sort. And then thinking about that a little bit deeper, I went into like, as a brewer, like we take our inspiration from many different things, whether you're trying to recreate, a traditional German style beer, like, accurately the way they have it in Germany, or like maybe pastry stouts are your thing and you're taking inspiration from the culinary world in your brewing process. So like to me, all of those different things were part of this story.
Yeah, sweet, sweet. And with that, the place in Ephrata, like, is that like the ideal place? Like, were you already kind of looking for that? Like, whenever that popped up and became an opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I had visited their tap room many times over the years, so
Yeah.
I was pretty familiar with that location, and really really like that spot. Since they had moved their tap room to downtown Ephrata and converted that into just production space, there's some work to do to get the tap room back. There'll be some construction along the way. So that's what I'm looking at over the next several months is building a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to make it your own, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
with
I've been going to like restaurant auctions, and I bought tables and a cooler and like doing all that stuff now in preparation.
Yeah. Is there anything that like I don't want to say you didn't anticipate, or is there anything that like I
So
don't?
yeah, I think I know what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Like I hear people talk about how whatever timeline you think you have, throw that out the window because it's never going to work. And so like my day job right now, and I'm an IT project manager. So like I'm used to like managing these projects and pushing them along, and it just does not work like that.
Yeah.
You're on so many other people's timeline that, and I kind of knew that, but it's still a shocking reality of how long some of this stuff takes.
Yeah. I mean, I've looked at your Instagram too for Inspiration Brewing. Like, I think that's really really cool to like kind of like you have like documented like almost like the whole process. So like, was
Yeah,
that intentional?
it is kind of intentional, and like on social media, I've since this deal started, kind of been teasing it without
Mhm.
really saying exactly where it was up until recently, and like just kind of keep leading people on. And now as
Mhm.
we're getting into construction, the plan is to use the social media to kind of be like, hey, come along and build a brewery with me, and get
Mhm.
people to invest in that story.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome. I've seen a lot of there's a brewery out of Harrisburg, Harris family that they've been
Yeah,
documented their whole thing with that. Like I just see that happening, and not only brewing. Like I've seen people do it with like their comedy journey, and I think that that is sick to like let people in the public like take that ride with you as you're going through it. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. The guys from Harris family are really cool, and I like watching what they've been creating too.
Mhm. As far as like the space and all of that, like how do you want it to be whenever you open those doors to the public the first time?
Sure. So the tap room's not huge. It's maybe about 50 seats is what we're looking at for the size of the tap room. Um, yeah, there will be a dozen or so bar plus sit down seats. Small menu. There's not much space for a kitchen. So looking at, I just bought a commercial panini press to
Nice.
make the panini sandwiches are going to be kind of the highlight of things. Along with, I'm starting to look for some local, like potentially like gourmet pretzels, popcorn type place to
Yeah.
work with them to have those available in the tap room as well. And all in all, just kind of have a cozy uh, vibe to it. There's one wall that I'm going to paint that have our logo on it. My plan is for that to be the wall of inspiration.
Okay.
And like think about that kind of like your adult refrigerator, where we'll be able to like pin up things, whether it's art or sayings that people scribble with crayon or whatever, and you have that be inspiration for other people too.
Yeah, that sounds sick. Like that's gonna be awesome. I feel like that also makes it like very interactive for people to come there. They're not just there and like, oh, I just wanted
Yeah.
a beer. Like you can come have a whole thing
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Here's a box of crayons and some paper. Draw something to put on the wall.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would be there. As far as like beer, like I assume you still plan on being like the brewer there, like especially at the
Yeah,
start. Yeah.
yeah. Especially in the beginning, I'm probably wearing a lot of the hats.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'll be brewing. Hope to have a variety of styles. Poor Man's in Ephrata focuses a lot on their lagers. St. Boniface brand is a little bit more toward the English style beers. So I'm going to kind of like hopefully bridge that gap and be like, here's a little bit of something for everyone. We'll have some fruited sours. Eventually, maybe we'll get into a barrel program. I would really love that if the space can allow for it. Some of the other things I want to do is I've been playing around with just brewing or like creating seltzer water and have like some different syrups that either we create to go with the seltzer water for people that may want to go out with their friends but don't necessarily like beer or even drink at all, and have options for those people as well.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard a lot of brewers and brewery owners talk about getting more into like the non-alcoholic kind of thing.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
see?
and non-alcoholic beer is tough as a small brewer because if you're packaging that because when you don't have the alcohol, then you kind of get into more food safety issues where pH is important and like potentially a lot. Like a lot of the brands the non-alcoholic brands that package in cans, those have to be pasteurized, like, and not something that like I can do in a little space like what I have. So that's kind of where like flavored seltzer water takes its place. Like
Yeah,
not as many concerns like that.
yeah, and I think that that's not something that I've heard of a lot. Whenever I've heard people talk about like doing like not non-alcoholics and just like regular seltzer water is like everything else that goes behind that too.
Yeah, and I've been approaching that similar to the way I'm brewing. As a brewer, we adjust the water we use for different flavor profiles, and you can kind of do the same thing with seltzer water and adjust the minerals that you put in there to give it a little bit different quality. And then with the different fruit syrups, like maybe people just want seltzer water, maybe they want a fruit, a lemon lime seltzer water, and
Yeah,
then expand on that. Like now I can also use that lemon lime seltzer water in a cocktail,
yeah,
and that's the base for the cocktail, and that's all something that I have made in house and not gone out and, I mean, other than the spirits,
yeah,
I don't have to buy base for cocktails.
yeah. I mean that's resourceful too. Like I mean, you get more than one use out of one thing. That it's always something that's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, with like, what styles do you lean more towards, like liking and wanting to drink or wanting to make?
I mean, I feel like as a brewer, I'm probably in the same boat that a lot of brewers are. Like light lagers are are the sweet spot for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like IPAs and stouts and like all kinds of different beers. Like one of my favorite styles is a Flanders Red. So like traditional Belgian sour barrel aged beers are great. Um, but at the end of the day, like if I'm picking a beer, generally I'm going to pick up like a Helles or a Pilsner or something.
Okay. Yeah, I think I adopted that pretty quick once I got into brewing.
Yeah.
Before I would have never chose a pilsner or anything like that. I'm a very I like stouts, barrel aged stouts, porters, like
I
that's.
like those too.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but most of the
Uh,
time when I go to a place now, I'm like, oh well, I'll take a lager or a pilsner any day. So I don't know if it's just being around like the grain so much or
yeah.
matching in all the time, like all the time. Like I don't know what it is that like just pushed me towards that at this point.
And I'm fortunate, like there will be lager on all the time of some
Mhm.
sort at my place. But I'm fortunate because, some of the equipment that I'm getting from the original Poor Man's location includes 2 horizontal lager tanks. So
Oh,
yes, there will be a flow of some sort of lager at all times.
yes, nice. Yeah. Whenever whenever you started home brewing, was there like any like classes like as far as like learning everything that you know now about that? Is that all like self-taught or?
So it a lot of it in the beginning was self-taught, and I really like to dig in and learn stuff. So like I scoured online. I've got a couple of different shelves of books, uh, and that's what I did for most of my years. But then last year I enrolled in the first Penn State craft brewing certificate program.
Oh, did
So
you? Nice.
yeah, so that was like I think it's 13 classes in a year, and like they are compressed. It's like
Really?
every 6 weeks you got 2 classes, a week break, and 2 more classes for 6 weeks.
Wow.
And it goes through everything from the history of beer to the brewing process, and then we ended with a couple classes on like the business of a craft brewery, which was like a nice difference between some of the other brewing schools. And I know like what I got here is not like what I would get at Siebel. That is a definite more
Hmm.
in-depth type of education, but this was a nice kind of in between to have a formal education where instructors were industry experts. Like our malting course, we had a guy that worked for AB InBev for his entire career. He had like 40 years of malting experience teaching
Oh,
us
wow.
about malt. Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Do you think that having like the experience already from home brewing helped, or were you seeing people who have never homebrewed at all, like in those courses, and was able to like kind of keep up?
Most of us in that class had like at least some experience with brewing.
Okay.
There was one guy that was working as a brewer. There were a couple of us that were looking at opening our own places. There was one woman that had a background in wine and just wanted to learn about beer instead of
Hmm.
wine. So, yeah, I think everybody had at least some knowledge, and I would say that definitely benefited us going into those classes.
Yeah. Do you think that well, it's not even do you think with you being in the industry so long, like do you think it's going to be more things like that's going to be something that gets
Uh,
offered a little bit more because like you said, like you did the first one and that was 2 years ago, you said? I can't remember.
just this past year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it was. I I mean I I hope that there is you know I don't I don't know. So I hope that there are opportunities out there like that.
Mhm.
Whether or not like there are more community colleges or local schools offering it versus places like Siebel or Oregon State or I forget the other big one here in the states. So like yeah, not everybody can go to those, and I think
Mhm.
having these local programs kind of opens that up for people that couldn't afford to go to Siebel in Chicago for 3 months or whatever it is. And in addition, hopefully that also turns into you know whether it's through the colleges or through the professional associations, some like continuing education type classes.
Mhm.
So like little bits and pieces that you can take here and there. Like I saw Hannah just completed that brewery maintenance course, and that thing looks amazing.
Yeah, I definitely. By the time the next one starts for the brewing and malting science, I would have already been brewing a whole year. So,
Yeah.
but still, like having that type of learning background, like I think that only does good things.
Yeah, we had like our course on yeast. Like we had an entire course just on yeast, and the guy teaching that was a lab guy. So we learned a lot more of the science behind how it works versus learning about the different characteristics of different types of yeast. And it was the same thing with water. We had a chemist teaching our water class, and that was a little overwhelming.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, just going from making sure that the pH is right to learning all those things. Like, yeah, there's a whole
Yeah.
lot about
Yeah,
that.
learning about the different ions and their positive and negative charge and how that affects each other. Like, all right, so just tell me how to make good brewing water.
Well, sweet, man. I'm not gonna hold you up anymore. One thing, is there anything that like you want to like say as far as like anybody thinking of like opening their own, like going from brewing to like open their own brewery before I let you go?
I mean, everybody told me not to do it. I am doing it anyway. So like just know that it's going to be hard work if you want to do it. But like if it's your passion and something that you want to spend your life doing, and you're willing to put in the hard work, I hope it'll pay off.
Yeah, sweet. No, that's good. And again, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks
Uh,
for having me. It
really
was
can't,
great
I
to meet
can't
you.
wait until you open up, man. I'll
Yeah,
definitely be there. Like that's gonna be awesome.
I'll I'll be sure to send you guys an invite to like the soft opening.
Sweet, yeah, I'll definitely be there. All
Cool.
right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Look out for new episodes every other Thursday, and thanks Brian for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.